Okay, the Friday, November 15th, 2024, regular meeting of the Gardner City Council Finance Committee will come to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Council Alex.
Present.
Council Matt.
Present.
And President Benitez.
Present. Is anyone recording today's meeting? Okay. We'll begin with the reading and approval of the August 5th, 2024, September 16th, 2024 meeting minutes.
I make a motion that we waive the reading in the minutes and approve them as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Latz to waive the reading of the minutes and accept them as presented. Is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Department head update. Here. We will begin with the updates with community development and planning and information technology on the agenda. As I understand, we're getting both of these. We're getting the information technology update sent to us. That's going to be a written update. Okay, sorry. Oh, this just went to UT. That's the one that he sent. Okay, so this we have received today at our meeting, so this will be in the meeting minutes. And then we have an update from the Community Development and Planning Department, so if you just want to go ahead.
Nice to meet everybody. I'm Evan. I'm the Assistant Director of Community Development. Trevor's out sick today, so I'll be giving some updates for the whole department.
Welcome, Evan. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'll start with the list that he gave me. So for the Rear Main Phase 2 North, the $3.64 million project is under construction right now. The Rear Main Phase 2 South is $3.5 million housing works grant that was recently awarded to the city. And he has it's entering into a state contract and projected to start in 2025. Moving on, the bike trail, nature trail, construction is continuing. The layout of the trail and the sub-base material is complete. The crossings are installed, and the contractor is working on finalizing the agreements with New England Power. The pathway should be complete this year, and landscaping is to be complete in the spring.
Thank you.
Moving on the list, he has a couple more. Mackey Park, the city's engineering firm, Time Bond, has submitted 2 options to consider for addressing the accessibility. And we are currently waiting for the building commissioner to recommend the best option. And the city will have to identify the funding source to meet the ADA requirements for this.
Okay. I just have a question on that. So it was submitted to the building commissioner. That's when they say it was submitted. That's what they mean.
Yeah. So they're waiting. Yes, okay. Waiting on him to recommend the best option, I guess, to move forward.
My question is, do we know what the cost of the options is?
We do. There's one that's for around $30,000, one that's for around $50,000. We do have some funds available in projects that came in under budget that were also CDBG funded, so we're looking at seeing if we can get some of those funds to cover it over there. But we should be able to move forward with at least one of the options for sure.
I know the council had, we've had an investigation for the issues and the problems that went on over there, so we'll have more information in the future, and I know that a lot will be covered in there. But this whole project, this was a CDBG, was the project CDBG funded? I mean, I know there was federal funding, there was other funding in there, right?
Yeah, it was partial CDBG, partial American Rescue Plan Act funding, and then a very small portion of the project overall. It also came from free cash that the council appropriated.
Thank you. Any other questions on that?
Very small being relative to the full cost of the project. It's not small terms in terms of dollar amount, but
yeah.
All right, just moving along here on the list, industrial park study. The city's engineering firm, Fuss & O'Neill, is currently developing concept plans for a potential build-out of proposed site based on wetland and topographic data. Once complete, market analysis will be developed, and the location of land is south of Route 140 from Route 101 to Matthew Street. Just continuing. Oh, sorry.
No. Is that city land?
not yet.
No. So does the city need to purchase the land?
Yes, so the way that grant was structured for us, it's conducting a feasibility study to see that whether or not that would be a location that's suitable for the city to purchase the land in order to construct a new industrial park site. The industrial parks that we have now, all spots are filled except for one remaining one over on Suffolk Lane. So that's why we started looking at the feasibility as to whether or not we need to add a third, or fourth, excuse me, because we have the Gardner Industrial Park on Fredette Wilkins, we have the North Gardner Industrial Park over on Linus and Lane Avenue, and then we have the Suffolk Industrial Park over on Suffolk Lane. So this would be adding a fourth one. The study looked at both the area north of 140 and south of 140 and deemed that for a business park like this, the area on the south side of 140 by Matthew Street and the Gardner Courthouse would be a more suitable location. So what this study that we got the funding for is doing is seeing, is this truly a suitable site for this? Is this the most appropriate site for it? And if so, what's the process in getting to there like? So it's still very early on. We're not looking at purchasing any land right now. It's just in the future, is this the spot that we look at?
Thank you. Further questions? Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Moving on the list, master plan, the request for qualifications is due on November 19th. So I know Trevor and city personnel will continue to work on that. Hazard mitigation plan contract for the city is being signed with successful bidder Weston and Sampson Incorporated. The initial meeting is to be held in December. And then the final thing Trevor has on the list is planning board currently has proposed a Compass Lane definitive subdivision proposal in front of them. The project consists of 16 lot subdivision on a 900 linear foot cul-de-sac off of West Broadway near the Templeton town line. And the public hearing was open this past Tuesday and is continued to their next meeting on December 10th.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the council?
Not this time.
Great. Thank you for the update.
Yeah, no problem. And then if I was just going to give some community development block grant updates as well too, project updates, quick ones for the council. So just I'll go kind of through my list quickly, briefly. For the FY 22-23 current open projects, the Greenwood Pool demolition. So the contractor has completed the site survey, the Crystal Lake delineation testing, and the hazard materials testing is complete. So now the contractor is working on finishing the sketches for the plan and hopes to have that done by the end of the year. And then given with swim season in mind, demolition will be done probably late winter, early spring at most, but making progress with that project. Any questions on the Greenwood Pool at all?
So the projected demo is the late winter, early spring is what we're saying?
Yes.
So that we can like be functioning for like swim.
Yeah, obviously that's the plan as of now. I think hiccups can come up. This is my first time kind of with one of these demolition projects, but to my understanding, it's, yeah.
It's quite the first demolition project for you to have. It's a long-awaited one.
Yeah.
But it's I'm really glad to get an update on that for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else? No. Go ahead.
Yeah, all right, moving along, 205-213 Main Street demolition, so the old Rome building across from the police station. The bids were opened yesterday. We had a good turnout. We had about 5 contractors bid on the project. So I'm just waiting for confirmation from the purchasing director in regards to kind of having to do his process and, you know, awarding the winning contractor. So we need to just wait for that. And then the city will look to begin the project following, you know, awarding the bid to the winning contractor, signing the contract. So hopeful for the demolition to start mid to late December. Any questions on that at all?
With that project, is the update to the lighting system part, or is that in the works as well?
That'd be a phase 2, so
That's
this is
phase
just
2.
cleaning up the intersection.
I just knew it wasn't happening with the demo, but I didn't know when phase 2 would occur. Is there any timetable on that once the demo is done, or that's just in the works?
In the works, so.
Okay, thank you.
Is there phases for that? Is it like I just don't remember. I just need to be refreshing. Is there like a phase 1, phase 2, like for that? whole area over there?
Yeah, it's really just getting the building down so we can improve sightlines, and then the phase 2 would be eventually looking to see if there's some grant funding out there that we can improve the intersection itself with.
Okay,
So lighting fixtures, if the corners cut back a little bit more so people can actually take that left-hand turn if you're coming from Willow to Main Street and,
like with no building there, site
Exactly.
would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, just the sightlines in general, even taking a right would be much better once the building's down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it will be improved even with the building being down, but thank you.
Any other questions on the Main Street building? Okay. Moving along, so downtown phase 4 for FY 22-23 is complete. So the intersection of Parker Street, West Street, Oak Street, and Nickel Street, we did pavement and sidewalk, redid the pavement and sidewalk, redid to meet ADA guidelines. There's added some wheelchair ramps on the crosswalks and lighting improvements as well in the area. So that was complete about a couple weeks ago, and that project is closed out.
Great, thank you.
And then social service projects for FY 22-23. Gamma has received their check for their award. And I am currently working with the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Fitchburg and Leominster, who I believe was awarded that in 22-23, and the Gardner Athletic Director on getting invoices and reports so we can award them their 22-23 award. So that's still in the works. But that's all I really have for 22-23 current open projects. If nobody has any questions, I can move on to 24.
This is like, so the 22-23, like that timeline for awarding, like the Boys and Girls Club and stuff, like, is that timeline gonna be different moving forward? Like it would be quicker, or is this just how it normally?
Yeah, so because this is a previous year, it's basically we're working as a reimbursement for that year, like that program, what they did. So and they're very busy over there right now with the person who runs the grants and kind of who I have to work with on this. So it's been a process, but we have until, I want to say July 2025 to have these funds like fully expended. So I don't see that being an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this grant? Okay, I'll just move on to FY 24 and 25. These will be fairly quicker. So the city has received clearance for the special conditions from the state. So the next step for me is to submit a notice of intent regarding the environmental review needed for the FY 24 projects. I'm going to be posting that in the local Gardner News within sometime next week. And then we'll be sending the appropriate documents and publishings to the state. And then following this, once the city gets the approval from the state, we can commit the funds to the FY 24 projects. So looking to have that complete definitely by the end of this year, and then we can start looking at again, expanding towards FY 24.
Okay, any questions, comments from the committee?
Just thank you for the updates.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Mr. Mayor, anything to add?
yes, if I could just add, since we don't normally get the assistant directors up here too often, Assistant Director Cudmore has been very good with us here in City Hall. I've been really impressed with his couple, have you hit a year yet?
It's been about 8 months.
About 8 months
Yeah.
here with the city. Jumping in and learning not only how the CDBG program works, because that's the main portion of his job, is overseeing and managing the CDBG projects, but the reporting structure, going through the review and audit that we had of the CDBG right when he got hired into the position, going through everything that was associated with all of those different projects, and then just getting to know Gardner as part of it all too, so that that can relate in there too. I remember when you first started, I was like, oh, the Rome building, and you looked at me, you're like, which one is that? But now it's just second nature too. I've been really happy with the performance he's been doing in that department, and I just wanted to throw that out there while he's here with us, that he's been doing a really good job just kind of learning on the spot, but also not just learning, but succeeding on the spot too.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you. Anything further? Great, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much, I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
You don't have to stay. Appreciate it. Absolutely.
Okay. We'll go to item 11431, a communication from the mayor regarding the certification of the FY 2025 tax rate, tax levy, and tax recapitulation. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Madam President. A lot of credit for this goes to our auditor, John Richard, who did a tremendous job getting the city through this process. Our tax rate was set just a hair lower than we expected when we did that big presentation. So it's $14.36, not $14.37. Attached to your packet is the full breakdown of what a average single-family home tax bill should be in the city of Gardner, and what that compares to, and it's still about 110-ish, or between 104 and 110. I don't have the document in front of me as we speak. Difference between what the tax bills were in October versus what they'll be in January. So people should see that reduction there. But all of these different tax, anything insert word here, form that had to be certified by the Department of Revenue for them to be able to set that rate for us. Auditor Richard did a ton of work behind the scenes on, so I really can't thank him enough for that. But that's just so you have all that information updated and included with you as to what the final documents are, so we can move forward with the current fiscal year.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments from the committee?
I have a quick comment.
I was gonna say, Auditor Richard, if you wanna come up, come on and have a seat.
No, I just wanna-
This document was clearly prepared by you.
Also say the assessor had
Yeah.
just as much work to do on setting the tax rate. We worked well together, and this is like the earliest we've ever got it set, which helps us get the billing out, because we can pre-plan everything and stuff like that. So kudos to the assessor also.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry,
Thank you.
I should have mentioned that.
Thank you.
If I may add, Madam President, too, you'll see attached to it is a list of communities that have already set their tax rate. We were the 39th community at a 351 to set their tax rates. And I think this is the earliest we've ever come even close to getting to this point. So yeah.
I did see the email from the assessor. I'm very excited about how it was done before Thanksgiving. So.
Yes. It makes life a lot easier for all of the financial offices here to get the tax bills out for January.
I have no further questions.
I have no further questions. I was really pleased with, just having the information. Like I said, each year I think we've kind of improved upon the way that we've done this, at least on the council side of it. I think the work that you guys have done has always been great and thorough and the same, but it's just having a longer timeline and being able to get it done, not having to do double work because the tax rate was set after you've done certain things, this is how it's supposed to work in my opinion, and this is really, really important. And it's one of these things that people might not really know. It's one of these processes. They mostly think about budget when they think of financial things, but they certainly pay attention to their tax bills, right?
Yeah.
So there's this whole process that goes into it, and it takes multiple departments, an act of the council, the mayor's office, working with the department heads, and then there's guidelines that we have to follow by the state. So this is like a full circle, and then not only does it get down to the treasurer collector's office where they need to issue bills and do a lot of administrative work on that end too, which then gets out to the community. So I think just this was all really helpful, having this all together kind of at the end to see why it was important to do it this way, and it sets a precedent, I think, for the future to do it this way and get it done, earlier as we can. If we've kind of done it each year a little bit earlier, but this year being much earlier, it's possible and we can do it, and as long as everybody's on the same page. So I appreciate all that. I have no questions about the content. I don't know if there's any questions from the committee.
I make a motion to recommend putting communication on file.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor General, seconded by Councilor Mack to place the communication on file. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item number 11424, an order appropriating $131,809 from free cash to the city stabilization account. Mayor Nicholson?
Thank you, Madam President. Now that the tax rate has been set and certified, we're moving forward with our free cash appropriations. This is something that's in the city's administrative financial policies to put, I believe it's 5% of certified free cash into the stabilization account. So that is what's included in the policy here. As I've said previously when we talked about when free cash was originally certified, one of the things that we'll be doing this year is seeing if we can put a little more into it at the end of the year just to help replenish from the salt shed. But for now, where things are a little financially observant, and we want to make sure that while we're okay now, we stay okay throughout the rest of the fiscal year with all the different changes coming up, the different economic trends that are happening, trends that happen whenever we have transitions in the federal government that end up affecting the market in some way, shape, or form in the long term. We're going to hold off on doing any more than what's in the policy for now and see about that when we get back. So I don't, after this meeting, barring any exceptions, that would have to fit certain very specific instances. I don't see us putting up any more free cash until about the April timeframe, just to make sure that we have that cushion there to get us at least through snow and ice.
Questions, comments from the committee?
No, as you said, this is part of, we get these free cash appropriations from the administrative policies, so that come to us every year. This one, I think the next 3 after as well are part of the same thing, so this is just normal course. For this one, for the stabilization account, I know there's a goal to get to a certain percentage, I believe, of the city's budget for the
Yes.
stabilization account.
It's,
Between like
5 and 7 or something?
something like that.
yeah, it's like 5 and 7.
Okay, so I know we're not there yet, but continue to try and move forward to that, so that's good to see.
I have no questions, comments.
I make a motion that we approve the item for passage to the full council.
Second?
Motion made by Counselor Mack, seconded by Counselor Jones to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion passes. Item 11425, an order appropriating $263,617 from free cash to the DPW road resurfacing account. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam President. This is also part of our annual administrative financial policies that go forward when free cash is certified. This is 10% of certified free cash going toward the road resurfacing account. In the past 4 years since I've been mayor, we paved 25% of the city's roads. So we've made a more concerted effort to go through. A lot of that was because of the water project. And the loans that we took out for the water project in order to pave the roads that we were putting in the new pipes for. So we're ticking away at that list, but it's one of those lists that you never really catch up to because of how the roads are going, especially after the winter time. This should get us at least another portion of some of the streets in Gardner. Right now we're looking at state grant funding for some of the state numbered roads, looking at some of the roads that currently have construction on them because of the Uptown Rotary project being finished, the transmission line being put through and stuff like that. But this is just part of our annual paving program that we put forward.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee?
No questions? I make a motion to recommend passage of the order to the full council?
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Donalawitz, seconded by Counselor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion passes. Item 11426, an order appropriating $26,362 from free cash to the city's other post-employee benefit OPEB stabilization account. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. The OPEB account is probably the bane of my financial existence, but it's one of those things that if we don't put something into, our auditors actually ding us on our bond ratings for not putting something into this. This is a law that was passed a couple years ago by an actuarial study that the state was doing, saying that if basically we cease to exist, at least we can pay certain benefits that are due to our former employees that aren't related to the pensions. It's something that when we put the money in there, it's really just tied up in there, and there's other stuff that's more important to spend things on. So this goes with our financial policies of only putting in 1% of certified free cash so that we can say we did something, but it's not too much that it's taking away from the different things that we need to be financially prioritizing to at the same time.
So with OPEB, can you just explain, like, when would we ever take anything out of this? It's only when we don't exist.
Yeah, basically, it's a savings account for if we don't exist, we have money to pay for benefits and stuff like that.
Yeah, we would never.
Will that ever happen?
That's, I just wanna make that clear, if there's any public watching, like that is
Yeah.
what, cause it's, it's, when you mention something that has to do with retirements, things like that, we certainly take care of our current employee, we have all of that in line, this is something that we're required to do if and, if that should ever happen, but it's very unlikely that it would, that's just kind of what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we have to carry it, but this money's never gonna see the light of day.
Thank you. Knock on wood, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
It doesn't, okay. I have no other questions or comments.
Make a motion to recommend passage?
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Donalawitz, seconded by Counselor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11427, an order appropriating $75,000 from free cash to landfill closure. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the last one that comes with the financial policies of the city. When the landfill was closed, it required 30 years of monitoring. This pays for that monitoring that goes there through. We have a schedule that's included in your packet of when that monitoring can be done and how that funding schedule goes moving forward. So that's going to be what we'll basically be putting forward with this, just to make sure that the environmental work being done at the landfill is done the correct way, monitoring the methane levels in particular, through the torches that are on the site and everything else that has to do with that. So that's what this annual appropriation request is for.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee? Is there a motion?
Motion to recommend passage to the full council?
Second?
Motion made by Councillor Derlowitz, seconded by Councillor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11428, an order appropriating $100,000 from free cash to the mayor's unclassified professional services grant writing expense account. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam President. This is not an annual appropriation, but has come up as an annual appropriation recently. We are looking at other ways that we can fund this in the future, but for now, at least for this fiscal year, because of the tremendous work that our grant writers have been doing for the city, continuing that contract, a couple weeks ago, the City Council approved an authorization to go out to bid for a 5-year contract for grant writing and lobbying services. That RFP closes on December 2nd. So we'll be able to award a contract at this time, but this would be the funding included for at least the first year and a bit for that contract that gets awarded. So we're at least set with that one. The grant writers, I think we've all seen the benefit for that, and I talked a lot about that when we had the 5-year contract request come up a couple meetings ago. But even with the change in administration, there's still a lot of funding that has been pre-authorized for the next 3 to 5 years. Whether or not Congress decides to claw some of that back, that doesn't mean the state funding isn't there too. And there isn't still other grant opportunities in the state, federal, and private sector areas that they go after too. And it's not just that, but included in the RFP was also assisting with the reporting that's associated with all of those. It also takes away time that our internal employees would have to use to do all that when they could be doing the other aspects of their job too. So it is something that I find very helpful, and I think that the city's seen at least a 20-fold return on the investments that we've done each and every year. So that's why I'm putting this forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to say, if we ever saw that there wasn't as much grant funding available, if this wasn't, this is, you know, we have these contracts and it's worth it right now, but this is why we get to review this. And all of a sudden, you know, there wasn't as much grant funding available and it wasn't worth us our time. Like, we would just look at it again and we either do the contract again or we don't. And I think that's important for the public to know too, is like, this is, in this case, this is like $75,000, you know, in the past for 20 million that we've received, over 20 million that we've received in grants. So, I appreciate the acknowledgement of, like, right now this works, but if it doesn't, this is not forever. This is something we look at all the time, and we've made this adjustment the last few years because it makes sense for us to do so that our departments can do the work, you know, for the city that needs to be done for the people that we serve here. So I think this is great, and I'm in support of it. Questions, comments from the committee?
And I think that it's important for people to know is just because you get awarded a grant doesn't mean you get all the money all at once. And the follow-up that comes with getting a grant is enormous. And so, and we've learned that making sure that those things are done in a timely manner is extremely important. The fiduciary responsibility that the city has to make sure that the funds are being allocated and spent correctly. So this is money very well spent.
Thank you.
We, as you said, you know, already talked about signing the contract and approved a 5-year one. This is just the next step to be able to do it. As everyone talked about, that we have a great return on investment, and if there are less grants available, having a team on our side, there's going to be more competition to get the grants out there. So having a group in place to advocate for us is going to be a benefit. So I think it could be, I think it will be something we need to do away. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
I'll just add that when the contract gets written too, it does have a line in it that says that the contract is subject to annual appropriation. So even if it's a 3-year contract, if for some reason the appropriation does not get approved by the city council, then that voids the contract at that time. So that's going to be another check and balance that we have, that if there's not as much out there, if we don't see the return that we're getting right now or something like that, that allows us to have that flexibility even with the contract that we're signing.
Thank you. Anything further?
Make a motion to recommend passage to the full council?
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Derlowitz, seconded by Councillor Mack to recommend passage of the order to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11429, an order appropriating $95,000 from free cash to the information technology equipment expense account. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Madam President. Director O'Keefe is the one who suggested this item. He's out visiting his new grandchild, so he wasn't able to be here with us today. Basically what this is here too, and he had some of the full project covered by grant funding. There was about $50,000 he's already gotten a grant to cover. Portions of this project is he's undertaken a study of us in City Hall and seen where can we do more efficiencies? Where are we leaving more room for human error? Where are we doing different things that are leaving us vulnerable? Director O'Keefe, you've seen in his written report that he submitted here too, actually just did had someone come and evaluate his performance on a cybersecurity standpoint, and the city scored quite well on not only our communities, but several communities across the Commonwealth. But there was still some stuff that they said we could do better. So portions of this funding is going towards a new Munis system. Now, Munis is our financial reporting software that we've used just for accounting purposes in the city. They've launched a new timesheet software too, because right now, if an employee wants to, each Monday, an employee submits a timesheet to their supervisor on a spreadsheet. That supervisor then refills out a full department spreadsheet that is then printed and then handed to the HR department, who then puts it in a master spreadsheet and then sends it off to the different payroll departments on a different spreadsheet, who then upload it to a different spreadsheet. So there's about 7 different spreadsheets and different papers and different things like that that currently happen when we do payroll here. This allows it to just be direct inputted onto the computer system, and it uploads immediately to everyone who's there. So it's the same stuff that's going across there too, and should substantially make our payroll system a lot easier, a lot more efficient, a lot more effective too, without any room for mistakes and human error that's associated with that too. It also helps us that if we, onboard an employee or offboard an employee, if they choose to leave employment with us, everything's already all in the system too, and it's a lot less paperwork changing hands, and again, there's less room for human error there too. However, the bulk of this funding is going towards just strengthening our cloud-based server systems and making a new server for us here at City Hall. Right now we have a server and a backup. This would just make sure that we have cloud backups for all of those, and one of the servers that we have is just old and just needs updating. So all of that is what's included in this $95,000 here. The $50,000 went towards more cybersecurity upgrades, and that was the grant that we were able to reduce this free cash amount for, is to get to this $95,000, because it was originally $100 and something thousand. But with that $50,000 grant, we were able to do the cybersecurity upgrades that way, and this is everything else that's associated with it.
Thank you. Questions, comments from council?
I just have a question. The Munis software it's you're buying the software, it's not an annual subscription, correct, for this amount?
Yes. There's
probably some fees, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably a nominal fee, but it's a new module that we're onboarding on. And the bulk of this cost is the onboarding the city and constructing it into the cities.
So any annual fees will become part of his budget?
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
My question would be just there's 2 different items in here, and then also the grant as well.
Yeah.
Can we get a breakdown of the cost of each?
Sure.
Each item, the servers and the Munis software, and where the grant fit into there.
Yeah.
Other than that, this seems to be upgrades that are needed, and will make reporting and payroll much more efficient.
Do we know when there was the last time we had some type of upgrade or new purchase of this system or any, you know what I mean? Like
For the Munis system, for the server.
Munis.
Munis, I mean, we've added different modules to it recently. We've had Munis for as long as I can remember. Then we've just chosen, we've never used the full capability of the system, because there are a lot of different modules that Munis is allowed to do, but you have to pay for those different modules being added to your package. So we've added a couple different things. We did the latest full upgrade of the full system probably 2-3 years ago when we went to the online system for it. But in terms of adding another module, this is probably the first time since we went with a new billing module, and that was probably in 2018.
Yeah, it was back even before that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions, comments?
We voted something more recently though for an update for cybersecurity or something.
Yeah, so that was the cybersecurity system.
Okay, the system, okay.
Yes. Yeah, this is for the server itself.
Okay. I'll make a motion, with the breakdown of individual expenses, we, approve this with passage to the full council.
Second?
Motion made by Councillor Mack, seconded by Councillor Donowitz to recommend passage of the order to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11430, in order appropriating $77,000 from golf retained earnings to golf new vehicles accounts. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is a request for retained earnings from the Golf Commission. Retained earnings is an enterprise accounts version of free cash. So this is what they've closed out at the end of the year. They have an existing vehicle that has a plow attachment to it, because they plow the parking lots at the golf course themselves. They're looking at purchasing a new 1-ton pickup truck with a plow attachment, and that's what this cost is associated for.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee?
Yesterday, we had a welfare subcommittee meeting, and this was presented to us, so we were expecting this expenditure.
Thank you. Anything further?
As a member of the golf commission, I'm gonna abstain from voting on this.
Thank you.
I will recommend passage of this item to the council for full approval.
Second, motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Kuzenskas to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Okay, item 11419, a measure authorizing the city to enter into a contract for up to 5 years for police department body camera cloud storage. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam President. This has already been negotiated with the union, so it's already in their union contract. The chief and deputy chief are currently working with our grant writers to get body cams for the police department. We've got a lot of instances where, especially after the creation of the post commission, there's concerns. Not instances is the wrong word for it, but raising concerns that if you get to a situation where it's a he said, she said situation, how do you confirm, how do you verify? When all of those instances go directly to the post review committee for officer certification on an annual basis. So this is something that we're looking at doing for the protection of our officers and to make sure that those investigations go as accurately as possible in the long term too. So the grant is still currently pending. However, the authorization to enter into the contract allows us that once we, it's a non-competitive grant. It's just one of those that we fill in the application. They provide us the funding for through the Department of Justice. So it's just waiting for that processing to go through. So this will allow us that once that does hit our books, we're able to just move forward and go out for solicitation for the cloud storage of the camera material, which is what this 5-year contract is. Obviously, once the cameras are purchased, they're purchased and they're ours. The purchase of the cameras themselves is about $30,000, and that's what the grant is for. What this is for is a continued storage of those materials. There's a company that's on a state contract that we're working with the purchasing department on going through right now that not only stores those, but also if we get a public records request for those videos, they'll actually go through, find the videos for you, redact any redactions that need to be made from the videos, send those to the chief so that it's ready for just sending to the requester at the time at that point too. So having these long-term contracts get us these extra benefits too of not just the storage but also the services of whenever we need any piece of footage that's in there too.
Okay, and so any of these instances, like in the past, what has been done? Like,
We don't have body cameras.
right, but like, so what do they, you can't do anything? So,
No, you're correct.
so this would just, this basically stops any, you know, questions like you just said, but like, there's nothing that could have been done for, there's nothing that could have been offered, it was like he said, she said situation, okay.
Correct.
Is there a time limit that you're required to keep the footage?
7 years.
7 years, so,
We can't go more than 5 years by state law.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Do we, I'm assuming this contract will come back to us once it's negotiated. Do we have any idea what the pricing is for that?
I don't know yet because we need the authorization before we go out to bid for it.
Okay, so no idea what other communities are paying for
No,
this?
I mean, because it's all dependent on your number of officers, the type of cameras, how big, because a more HD camera is gonna have a higher gigabyte storage than a standard definition camera. So it's one of those, we kinda need the full picture to really know the full cost of it.
Okay.
I mean, at this point, with a city of our size and a police department of our size and what they cover, I just don't see why we wouldn't have something, like this to me is just like the next step, like we should be doing this, so, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah. The officers, the chief and the deputy chief are all asking for this too.
I'm in favor as well, just curious what the price will look like. I think it's something that's necessary for the safety of our officers. And the public will have the cameras in place, so I'm glad to have it here and make a motion to recommend authorization to the full council.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor General, seconded by Councilor Mack to recommend authorization to the full council. Is there a discussion on the motion? Councilor, Mayor Nicholson?
Thank you, Madam President. Just to add to that too, this is just the authorization for the contract so we can go out to bid. If the costs come in too high and the appropriation's not there, then none of this moves forward. But this is just getting us to the point so that we can move forward.
Okay, good to know, thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11420, a measure declaring surplus for the purpose of disposal of land and buildings at 73 Stewart Street. Mr. Mayor?
I guess it's more land than buildings, but this is the former factory site at 73 Stewart Street. The demolition is now completed. The city went out to sell the property before. We only got one bid for $17,000, which is what the council had previously approved for the minimum bid amount. But the reason why it was $17,000 is we had a public benefit of removing blight, so whoever bought the property was gonna have to tear the property down, so we, in consideration of the cost of demolition, we lowered the price from what it was assessed at. Now, that public benefit is no longer there because we tore the building down ourselves. So this is bringing it up to its current assessed value. So I'm asking that the council basically vote to increase the minimum sale amount from what we had it at before at $17,000 to the actual assessed value of the property. That way we can get the full value of it.
Thank you. I have no questions or comments or anything from the committee.
I make a motion that we recommend this to the full council for approval.
Second?
Motion made by Councillor Mack, seconded by Councillor General to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made by Councillor Mack, seconded by Councillor General to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone.